Hello and welcome to our assessment tool demo. I'm going to talk a little bit about ITCMF, why it's so useful as a measuring tool. I'll talk a little about the rationale for running assessments. I'll then hand over to Kira for the demo and turn on the mics afterwards for some discussion. We'll answer any questions that you might have. So please keep the questions and the comments coming in the chat window as we're presenting. One of the key parts of ITCMF is the 5 levels of maturity. At all layers in the framework, we describe what good looks like for each of the 5 levels. This turned out to be a very powerful tool for a number of reasons. Here's an illustration of the 5 maturity levels for an effectiveness assessment. As you may recall, this looks at all critical capabilities and asks 2 questions, or what we call anchor statements, for each. So here's the maturity levels related to one enterprise architecture management anchor statement. As you can see, what good looks like is laid out clearly. The participant can relate these statements to their experience rather than having to place themselves in a numeric scale. With a quick read through of that, you'll see that the evolution through the different statements, the different maturity levels is quite strong. And you would be able to say, yes, we definitely have an architectural vision and roadmap for all IT areas, or no, we don't. We're actually less mature than that. Okay. Similar for critical capabilities, they're divided into categories and capability building blocks. We're really getting to nitty-gritty here, and you'll find at least one anchor statement like this per capability building block. So here's one from knowledge management. There's probably at least 20 other ones. So for the area of establishing a knowledge management culture, the 5 levels of maturity are clearly defined. Participant has to decide which description best matches their experience of knowledge management culture and choose that. And at the same time, you can see there's 2 columns there to the right. There's current and target. They can also decide what level of maturity would be desirable and choose a target maturity. If you want to quickly read through a few of those, you can see that we've laid out very clearly what it looks like to have a positive KM culture getting established in a company, so people can relate that to their own experience. So laying out these 5 levels clearly brings a number of benefits. Reading through the levels, participants can become aware of better ways to do things. They only worked in a level 2 organization, operated at level 2, they may not be aware of the possibilities at the higher levels. This helps them internalize the path to success. And I watch people do assessments, I've seen this when they look at the level 3, which they're not at, and say, oh yes, we could do that, which is great. Verifiable results are also possible. If one is chosen a 4 or a 5, the assessor can then ask to be shown evidence of the kind of behavior that's laid out in the maturity level description. This would not be possible in the more subjective numerical rating. Having this reliable measure allows you to accurately compare results between departments, between organizations, and indeed the same organization over time. Finally, because you can invite lots of participants and spread over a wide geography without much extra overhead, the average answer is going to be more accurate, so you're pulling the wisdom of the crowds. Just to remind you, we collect 3 kinds of data in our assessments: current, so where you are now; desired state or target maturity, where you would like to go; and finally, importance, how key is this to improve this area. This last one can be quite interesting. If the answers to this don't align with strategy, then an organization may need to assess how they're communicating their strategy. Finally, a little bit on running assessments, and then we'll be handing over to Kira. So when would you run an assessment? So when you're instigating change or driving improvement, or just when you want to know how things are. It's quite a useful information point. Why would you want to run an assessment? Well, you want to understand your current capability. You want to see what the perception is of strategic importance. And you might also want to gauge desire for change. So how would you run them? Well, we have an online tool which allows you to pull from a large data set. You can have a wide geographic reach. You're not hampered by time zones and so forth. And who? Well, it depends on the assessment. Lots of answers to this question, but basically people who can answer the questions. So depending on the type of assessment, you'll actually have a different group of people to answer that. So now I'm going to hand over to Kira, and she's going to do a software demo for us.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Anna. So hello everyone, my name is Kira Kinsella and I am the research assistant here at Innovation Value Institute, and I will be demonstrating how to use the new assessment tool today. Just a quick reminder before we start that you'll need to be an approved and trained IUI assessor before conducting any of these assessments. So firstly, we'll just take a look at our checklist. This is just one I prepared in order to show you what we will be covering today, and I will be referring back to this one once we have completed the various steps. It's just a list of what you'll need to know and how you'll access and use the assessment tool. Okay, so the assessor tasks I will be demonstrating are logging in, setting up a survey, inviting participants, reminding participants, downloading the data, and then logging out. So logging in. First of all, to log on, you must visit our portal at www.content.ivi.ie and enter your username and password. So I'm just going to do that now. Okay, so once you're logged on, you'll select the Surveys and Assessments tab, and then you'll enter into the Assessments homepage. So on the left-hand side, you can see the list of the different tabs, such as Home, Organisations, Questionnaires, Users, and then the Logout tab. And on the main screen area, you'll see the Organisation, Questionnaires, and Users tab. Most of the good stuff is in the Organisations tab, so that's what we'll be focusing in on today. So just click into there. Here you can see the list of organisations in which you have access and you can create surveys for. When you access this initially, there may not be any organisations, and so you'll need to get IVI to set you up a new organisation as you need to assess them. As you can see here, I have 4 organisations assigned to me, and this is probably more representative of a consultancy scenario. If you're an assessor working within an organisation and assessing your colleagues, it's unlikely that you're going to have more than one organisation here. So just click into the organisation in which you want to create a survey for. I'll be creating a survey for Acme Limited today. So once you've entered into your organisation's page, you should see the name of your organisation, a tab for surveys. We'll look more closely at this in a few minutes. There's also a list of the assessors to the organisation. So as you can see here, Anna and Paul are also assessors to this organisation, and then there's also a list of questionnaires at the bottom, which are available to your organisation. And yes, I know that there are multiple names repeated here a few times, but don't worry, they're just multiple test users and questionnaires under the same name. So I'm just going to mention the difference between a survey and a questionnaire at this point. So the questionnaire is a template in which we provide. So the list of questionnaires are all the types of assessments that you can run. And then the surveys are instances of those questionnaires that you have created and that have been populated with data by your participants. There are also many more questionnaires that can be available to you than what is displayed here. There are 36 critical capability questionnaires. And there are also questionnaires for the effectiveness assessment, the various readiness assessment, and etc. You can request access to these from IVI, but just for the purpose of this demonstration, I just have access to the few that you can see here. So just go back to the checklist. We've completed the log on, and now it's time to set up a survey. Okay, so to set up a survey, just click into Surveys. As you can see here, I have 2 previous surveys already set up for this organisation. But today we're just going to set up a new one, so just click on Add. This will bring you onto a new survey page, and so you'll be able to select the appropriate questionnaire available to you from the drop-down list. And again, you'll only have access to the questionnaires you've been given access to. So I'm just going to choose the IT Effectiveness Assessment, and I'm just going to call it IT Effectiveness July 2018. You're also going to be allowed to select choose a start and end date. So I'm just going to say it starts today and ends tomorrow at 5:30. And then just hit Save Survey. So this brings you onto a page with details of the questionnaire you've chosen. So your organisation, your survey status, which is how long the survey is going to be active until, the period of how long the survey is open for, and then the duration of the survey. Okay, so on this page here, you'll see multiple tabs just above which read Participants, Preview, Charts, Export, Workbook, Edit, and Delete. So if we just click onto the Preview tab, we'll be able to have a look at what the survey is going to look like. So then just go down and click on our turn to agree to our terms and conditions and hit Next. So this is what the preview of the survey is going to look like. This is what your participants are going to see. You might want to review the questions and the 5 maturity level statements so that you know what you're asking. You might also want to see how they rate the importance and what questions will be asked at the end of the survey. So you can just see those by clicking on those 2 tabs here. Of course, you can also see this by inviting yourself to the survey, but this is just a cleaner way to look at what the survey contents are. Okay, so now it's time to invite participants. Okay, so to invite participants, click the Participants tab like so. So you have 2 choices of options to invite participants. The first method is you can add participants individually by selecting Add. and then filling in the information boxes accordingly like this. So I'm just going to invite myself here. So then if you scroll down, you'll see the second method. The second method is best when you want to add a greater number of participants. So what you do is you just download the sample CSV file from the link given like so. Now this is just a sample that has been given to you. So then what you do is you'll just fill this out with your own information of your participant's name, email addresses, and etc. And then just save the file to your computer and upload this with the choose file option. So I'm just going to show you one that I made earlier with Anna and Paul's information, and I'll just upload it then as well. I'm just going to choose my file, upload it, and then hit save. Okay, so now you've invited everyone, you'll reach this page where it sends out an email to all your participants inviting them to partake in the survey. You can use what's written here as a sample, or you can edit the email to whatever way you please. So just hit the send notifications button, and this will send your email to all your participants of the survey. Now you've invited participants, it's now time to remind them if they haven't completed the survey. Okay, so having sent out the survey, you're going to want to see how people are getting on with it. You can see which participants are finished by their responses by whether they have a green tick or a red X next to their name. The green tick means that they have completed the survey, and then the red X means that they haven't. You can edit participant information here if you just click the small icon, just with the opposite participant's name like this. So I'm just going to change Paul's email here and then hit save. So maybe some people have heard about the survey and would like to be invited to join in. And so not to worry, as participants can still be added to the survey once it hasn't passed its end date, using the exact same system of clicking add like so, and then adding them individually, or then you can also choose a file here to upload. So I'm just going to refresh my page here and see if anyone has completed the survey. So yeah, we can see Anna has just made a start on the survey, and Paul and myself haven't started it at all. So I can remind myself and Paul by just clicking onto the bell here, just under notified, or I could collectively remind all of them if none of them have completed the survey by selecting remind all. So Anna, when you've submitted your survey, I'll just refresh my page.
Okay, submitted.
So yeah, we can see here now that Anna has just completed the survey, and the progress bar has been replaced by the green tick beside her name. So just to jump in about editing your survey, so if you have already run assessments, you'll know that it's not unusual to have to push out the end date. So I'm just going to show you how to do that now. So just click back onto the name of your survey's name, and then just edit the survey's information just by pressing edit here. So I'm just going to say that it's open for another day. So I'm just going to say that it's going to end on the 28th, giving everyone an extra day to complete the survey. And that's that. So now you've reminded your participants, it's time to see how you download the data. Okay, so when the survey is finished, or even when it's still open, you can download the raw data by clicking on the Export tab. This isn't terribly useful, but then you'll be aware of our AAW file that provides a lot of slicing and dicing of the data. You can download the AAW template by clicking on Workbook and populate this with the latest raw data from whatever stage the survey is at. There are recent improvements in the AAW, but they are beyond the scope of today's webinar. So if you're interested in learning about we can run a webinar. Just let us know if you're interested by popping into the chat window. Okay. So now we've downloaded the data as well. Okay, so we've learned how to log on, create a new survey, invite and remind participants, and also download the data. So now all that's left to do is log out. So this is just done simply just by pressing on the logout button just here on the left hand side, and that is that. So hopefully this has given you a good guideline on how to use a new assessment tool. There will be documentation available in the next coming weeks if you want to go back over how this works. This recording will also be posted onto YouTube in case you've missed certain areas or if you want to go back over the whole demonstration. But that's it for me, so thanks very much for listening, and back to Anna.
All right, thanks, Ciara. So that was only Ciara's second time to do a demo during the live webinar, so I think she did a pretty good job. Hope you agree with me. I want to talk a little bit about next steps now. So what's next for ourselves? Yeah, I think that's the right one. Yeah. So when will it be live? So the tool's already live. It's in beta. It's the recommended tool for effectiveness assessments and critical capability assessments, and we are moving on to readiness assessments next. We have some new features coming in autumn and early spring releases. We'll be able to put some of the charts from the assessment workbook, the AAW, that will be available to you online just to have a look at. We'll have some online benchmark selection. We'll have the ability to select priority CPBs and CCs and save. And that's, I think, what you've all looked for in the past as a customized assessment. That'll be quite interesting. We'll have automated POMs retrieval based on saved priorities, and we're looking at experimenting with an inference engine to deal with CC interrelationships. So a way to basically automatically point you to the best CCs to work on the basis of your effectiveness assessment, using previous data to guide that. So if you'd like to run an assessment, you can contact Paul Goddard at ivi@num.ie. If you want to be trained as an assessor, you can contact Michael Hanley at mu.ie. So with no further ado, I'm going to turn on people's mics. So everybody has microphone rights. Now, in order for you to speak, you need to go up to your audio button and turn on your microphone and then select the right microphone for that to work. But if you don't want to speak, that's fine. The chat window is great. And we already have a question in from Sarah. So, Paul, I don't know if you'd like to take the questions. I can certainly take them if you're not in a position to do so. I see your mic has gone, so you need to turn that on. So Sarah's question, what were the reasons you've left Qualtrics and what happens when the Qualtrics end date is reached? So I think...
sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, great. Thanks, Paul.
It's Qualtrics, we had used it and it was a very powerful tool. But unfortunately, some of its workflows weren't quite, as intuitive as this tool, and it didn't, completely suit what we were trying to achieve with the assessment tool. It was also difficult to move it forward in terms of doing charting and other things like that. And we also had some technical issues, over the time we'd used the tool. So we reassessed what we wanted to do, and we chose to move on with it with our own assessment tool.
Great, thanks for that, Paul. So, Sarah, the Qualtrics end date, there's not any Qualtrics end date per se. Do you perhaps mean the survey end date? I know, suppose maybe I'll speak to this because we didn't go into this in the demo. We do put in a survey end date, and when you reach the end date, participants can no longer submit any additional information. And additionally, people that are assessors who are creating a survey can't add people to the assessment. Do you have anything to add to that, Paul?
No, I mean, other than any end date with the Qualtrics survey, there won't be any disruption. We'll ensure that there won't be any disruption moving from one to the other for surveys that are already in progress.
Perfect, great, thank you, Paul. There's a question coming in for Declan. Is it still possible to set up a demo survey for a client?
Yes, that's even easier now, Declan. With the assessment tool, you can create a demo survey within the organization and distribute the assessments. And also for the administrator or the person running the survey, it's much easier to preview the survey and take a look at how it looks before you make any distributions.
Okay, great. I think Declan has some more things to say. Anybody else have any questions? We're happy and willing to answer them here. There's not a lot left to cover, so get your questions in now because I suppose we'll be finishing quite soon. But we're happy to answer questions for the next half hour if you'd like to be asking them. Okay, so Declan wants to know about the highlights of the changes. And I suppose, Declan, one of the things, how it's changed the AW, one of the things we've taken from the last webinars that we actually will run a webinar about the AW itself. I think that'll be something worth doing over the next couple of months. But I don't know, Paul, if you want to talk about your excellent work in that area, I think people might enjoy hearing about it here.
So we've made it a bit easier to use, Declan. We've laid it out with a kind of a workflow sheet at the start with links that allows people to browse easier through the worksheet, through the workbook, the AW. But we've also increased the automation that's available within the workbook. So it can now directly create PowerPoint files with all the charts in the workbook automatically, or just by the click of a button for a macro. There's a few other minor improvements, but that's I guess the main highlights.
So Declan, it sounds like you might like to actually try out some of this, and certainly if you use the new tool, you'll be able to download the latest AAW as part of that. So you might actually want to try and contact Paul Goddard to get a sandbox version so you can play around with it. Okay, Declan says certainly. I think we have maybe a question coming in from Masa-san. I'd be interested if any of you that are on there that don't have a question maybe would tell me where you heard about this webinar. Did you get it from our newsletter? Did you see it on LinkedIn? Did you see it on Twitter? That would be very interesting for me if you don't mind telling me that in the chat window. We've had a poll in the past, but we don't have one here today. So if you, yeah, stick it up there if you can, if it's easy enough to do. So Masa-san has a question. Can the questionnaire history date be stored? I'm not sure. Historical data. Okay. I think, Paul, do you want to take that one? Do you understand the question, or?
I'm not quite sure what you mean, Masa-san, but I mean the data is recorded in the database, and it is there for the assessor to go back to whenever they want. But also they can download the results of the survey. Oh, sorry, I think I understand what you're saying. So looking at historical trends, unfortunately that's not available at the moment, but that is something we have been asked for, and we are currently considering on it for future updates.
Okay, that's great. Thanks, Paul, and thanks, Masa-san. That was a good one. We've got some more questions coming in, so we'll hold off on the poll. We'll stick it up there, actually. Yeah. Okay, great. People are filling out the poll. That's fantastic. Good to see. We'll show you the results when it's done. Okay, I think there seems to be no more questions. Again, nobody seems to be typing. So I'll leave the poll there. Maybe just pull it up a little bit, maybe out of the way. People can see that. So basically, just finally to say, if you'd like more information, you can go to our website, ivi.ie. You can join our LinkedIn community. It's the IVI Global Community on LinkedIn. So if you'd like to search for IVI Global Community, you'll find us. Please join us. Oh, we've got a question for Declan. For partners and clients, is it possible to skin the survey? So, Paul, do you want to take that one?
Currently, no, but that's definitely something we could add to the list. I don't see why it wouldn't be possible.
Okay. And I think the translation question, you can answer that quite well, Paul, I think.
Yes, I mean, it is definitely possible to translate the questionnaires and add them as separate questionnaires. Unfortunately, there's no automatic way, let's say, of doing this. But we have, a sample of translated questionnaires in Spanish, in Japanese, in German, but of course it wouldn't cover the whole ITCMA framework.
No, but I suppose it's important to know that we can, our architecture very much supports translated versions. So we built that into the system. So that means that if you have, I suppose the kind of content we have from a translation point of view, it needs to be translated by somebody who's very professional, because it's quite a specific type of language, but certainly the tools facilitate that very well. So we have more questions coming in. So we've got one from Masa-san about Japanese. So we'll be able to translate into Japanese. We don't have Japanese translations right now.
Well, there are versions of I think primarily the executive assessment or the effectiveness assessment, which is available in Japanese.
But that wouldn't be the latest one, Paul, would it?
Sorry, it probably wouldn't be the most recent one, but there is a relatively recent version in Japanese.
Okay.
And
Very
So
good.
I
And
think
then
that can
Declan's
answer
what?
the question.
Yeah. So Declan, you're looking
Uh,
to see. Sorry, go ahead, Paul.
it's not strictly speaking the same survey, so it would be a different instance of the same survey. So if you wanted to run the survey across an organization that spoke both languages, unfortunately you'd have to create two separate versions of the survey, one in English, one in German, and distribute it to the English speakers and then to the German speakers. Um, and then you'd have to combine the results at the end, which isn't relative, isn't difficult to do. It's a matter of copying and pasting the results from from one CSV into another.
Oh, good question. Then what does that mean for the license fee? So you'd think you have to pay for
I,
two
I,
servers? I don't think so.
I'm afraid you'd have to talk to Paul Goddard about that, but I can't see him making two charges. I would think that we would include it under the one license fee.
Okay. So great questions, great discussion. We're happy to take any more. We're not in any hurry to get out of here. So if you have any more questions, this has been very interesting for us to see what people are concerned about. So that's great. We'll wait for a few more. I can go on to the next slide just to kind of go through that in case it jigs any question. Basically, we're always happy to hear from you. My email's up there, annabrown@nu.ie. Sinead Murnan similarly, and Paul Goddard. Just to say thank you so much for taking the time to come here today and listen to us. We're delighted to engage with you in this way. Thanks for filling out the poll. That's quite interesting. Most people, I mean, I will share the results now actually with people, but most people are coming from the newsletter, which we had expected, and a smaller number from the website. That's fair enough. No one's getting it from Twitter or LinkedIn or other people, so that's interesting for this one. So thank you very much. So our details are there, and I think with no further ado, we will say goodbye to you. I hope you found that informative. For more information on our framework and our assessments, visit our website at www.ivi.ie. You're welcome to join our community on LinkedIn. You can search for IVI Global Community or use the link on the screen. For more information in general, contact our community managers, Sinead Murnan, and myself, Anna Brown. We'd be delighted to answer any questions you might have about the Innovation Value Institute and our products. For partnership opportunities, you can contact our channel and partner manager, Paul Goddard, at the email address on the screen. For more information on our upcoming webinars, you can visit our webinars page. There you will find regular updates and information on our upcoming webinars and events. That's www.ivi.ie/webinars. Thanks for watching.